everybody, and welcome to the Roundtable live podcast for November 17th, 2015. My name is Bear, joined by MathasGames, RockLeeSmile, and Northernlion. Hi.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
We are going to talk about some video games today.
Bear, where was our countdown, man?
I gave you a countdown. I gave you 3, 2, 1.
A good countdown.
I did. That time I was on the ball.
He was dead on.
I think this is the most prepared I've honestly been for any show. I had like the whole docket is set up. Moobot's got the docket. We got stories to talk about.
Stories.
I was here on time. We're 3 for 3.
You know, the hope is that every week we'll get a little better. Something will come together and production values rise.
Or we fall into a glorious cataclysm. Yes, that's what we want. The best way to end a podcast is to just go out in a blaze of glory. Yeah. You do it for about
closer to death.
Yeah, you do it for like 9 months, and then you get on Twitch for a few weeks. Everything just explodes, and then you're all dead, and you rise from the ashes like a phoenix and start a new one, right? We'll call it the Pound Table Rodcast. We'll finally come through on that
Pound
offer.
Table Rodcast.
We've been waiting for that. No, that's been the whole build-up this whole time. Today's show, we're going to be talking about Tomb Raider's dismal performance thus far, which is kind of to be expected. And then Microsoft kind of vouched for their release date as well, so that's sort of an interesting argument to be had. We want to talk about Fallout 4 again, because Fallout 4 is a massive game, and we definitely need to talk about it a second time. The review event for EA's Battlefront, which is kind of an interesting mess behind that. We want to talk about that a little bit more, too. As well as the ridiculous Binding of Isaac Afterbirth alternate reality game that many of you may have been a part of recently. But I want to start by saying no one's actually good at Candy Crush, right? It's all just made up. No one's actually skilled at Candy Crush.
I don't think you can be skilled at it, can you?
No. This isn't a news story, by the way. This is just a one-liner that I read that I thought was an interesting point. You can't be good at Candy Crush. And it's not to say that Candy Crush is devoid of skill. It's just that no one can be good at it. Okay, that's not going anywhere.
You've been designed not to be good at it.
All right, listen. I want to save that one before it just becomes buried, because I had a thing before the show, and I've been trying desperately to remember it for the past 15 seconds. I have no idea what I wanted to talk about.
You don't want to compromise your integrity or your faithlessness. It's really what's important to do.
Are these like the Patreon rewards? Is just
no.
These sentences? Because they don't form any coherent meaning.
I swear to God, I had an idea for this. I'm just going to close the article and move right along, because really there's no saving that one. We're going to talk about Tomb Raider.
There you go.
Rise of the Tomb Raider is now available on the Xbox One, an exclusive release for the Xbox One. We have numbers coming out of the UK. Rise of the Tomb Raider has sold 63,000 copies.
I wish you just said 63 copies.
Rise of the Tomb Raider has sold 6 copies in the UK so far.
May as well be to them.
Mm-hmm. The Tomb Raider 2013 release, by comparison, was at 183,000. I believe those are also comparatively in the UK. Day one sales numbers as well, but this, I mean, the bigger picture here, of course, is the fact that Rise of the Tomb Raider is competing with the biggest releases of the year by far. You've got Call of Duty Black Ops 3 that just came out, and of course Fallout 4, which is the big one that everybody's been talking about, which was released on the exact same day, basically, as Tomb Raider.
And not exclusive also.
Yeah.
I was going to say the exclusivity it's got to hurt it, right? Like on the Xbox One, it's not the most owned console out of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate. I don't know.
I don't know if it's even really an issue of whether or not they even chose the right console. I think the console exclusivity in general is going to be...
In general, yeah, for sure.
Just not exactly the best play. I think the argument that I want to make to start off the conversation is that they just shouldn't have released this year, I don't think.
At all.
I don't think they should have released this year. I think... Yeah, do a little bit of a Bayonetta, wait until January or February of 2016. I think this should have been the big first release of 2016.
Yeah, I don't think that would have been a bad idea.
Not exclusive. Would have actually totally changed the whole perspective.
But we don't know how much money Microsoft shuffled in their direction to make that happen, you know?
Well, true. And last year, even, we were talking about how this would likely lead to increased sales and a good result for Rise of the Tomb Raider. But admittedly, last year, we didn't know that Fallout 4 existed and was going to be released on the same day. So that kind of changed the game.
That's what I'm looking at right now, is the idea that maybe Tomb Raider was like, we're coming out November 10th, and then Bethesda announces Fallout at, like, the end of May or the start of June. I guess it was the start of June. And they're like, oh shit, I really hope they don't pick the 1 week that our Tomb Raider game releases. And then maybe they did, and they were like, shit, we're like so close to launch.
Right.
Yeah, maybe it's too late.
Maybe we shouldn't delay it. But yeah, it looks like the Tomb Raider release date was announced on June 15th. The Fallout 4 release date was announced on June 15th.
Oh.
So maybe that was just like really shitty timing for them.
It
Because
must
I can't imagine that.
Done.
I can't imagine the people at Square Enix were like, "Oh, well, we can beat Fallout," right? I'm pretty sure that this is just like an unhappy coincidence for them.
If it weren't, would you think it could possibly work in the other direction, that Bethesda could have actively tried to subvert competition by saying, let's just crush them on the same day?
Oh, I don't think Bethesda gets anything by coming out on the same day as Tomb Raider.
Yeah, no, they probably don't. I'm just wondering if that's like a strategy, you think, for anybody.
I don't know. Maybe it seems like kind of rude.
Kind of shitty.
It seems like something a sports team would do, is like, claim someone off waivers when they don't actually need them just to hurt their opponents. I don't know if Bethesda's like, no, we got to fuck Square Enix.
They didn't even want to fucking release it this year, man. They were just like, you know what, just fuck them over. We can do this. We can
I hate
ruin
Lara
their company.
Croft.
Yeah.
Well, and I've heard the game's actually not bad either.
No,
It's actually very, very good.
Because I want to play it now, but I don't want to buy an Xbox. So
Yeah,
Well, it's only timed exclusivity, right?
Yeah.
It's going to hit everything else when? In a few months?
But will the next release matter?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
people
Will
have
it
them
matter
for
still at
around?
that point? I argue it won't. It really would have just... Obviously, they can't fix the exclusivity now, right? We were talking about this, really it was last year, like August of last year was about when this news was coming up, that Rise of the Tomb Raider was going to be a console exclusive, and it sounded like a good idea at the time. But now they still have the exclusivity to deal with, but I think as recently as just like a few months ago, I don't know exactly when the game went gold, but it's still worthy of consideration, knowing what you know now, to think, well, maybe well, not even maybe, we won't compete, you know? Like, we won't be able to compete with this launch. It just, we're not even on the same scale.
I'm on a PC Gamer article right now as far as like when they're going to launch. It's like bad. It's like staggeringly terrible. So PC's release is sometime in early 2016. PS4 release is holiday 2016. So a whole year between the Xbox One and the PS4 release date. Ugh.
They're going to try again with the
just dead at
PS4
that
next year, I
point.
guess?
Everybody who's going to want to have played it, for the most part, I feel like will have played it on the PC or something by then, or people just won't care anymore.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's what we said about
awful.
Grand Theft Auto 5, right? When it came out staggered, but then again, they kind of upgraded the visuals and hardware along the way.
Yeah,
Each
this
time.
is also not Grand Theft Auto 5,
yeah.
to be
That
fair.
was the next point, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really. I assumed they were both gonna PC and the PS4 version would come out around the same time, but no. Like I'm alright with early 2016 for PC because that's what I prefer to play it on. But I mean, just to separate your audience that widely, I hope Microsoft paid them a lot of money.
I
Well,
do too.
what I've heard, and this might be hearsay, but is that Crystal Dynamics was basically only able to make the Tomb Raider they wanted to make because of the money that they got from Microsoft. But
Really?
even still, that kind of falls on deaf ears because it brings it back to that like 2013 discussion of like, how can this game be considered a failure?
Failure, yeah, with 2
when
million
it sold like 9 million copies or something like that. But no, I agree that like, I mean, what a terrible way to have to reboot your reboot 3 years after you rebooted it, is to just like
Oh my god.
to float out
Spider-Man
this-
all over again. No.
It's like Spider-Man, or not Spider-Man. Tomb Raider 2013 comes out and everyone's like, this is probably gonna suck, and then it comes out and it's awesome, and people were like, that's great. Second Tomb Raider comes out, people are excited. Comes out the same day as maybe the biggest game of all time, maybe second biggest after Grand Theft Auto 5. Xbox One exclusive. not coming to PS4 for a full year, not coming to PC for like 4 months, people were like, I just don't give a shit. Like, like this doesn't bode well, I think, for the future of the Tomb Raider franchise right now. But maybe it's good enough to have legs on PC, even when it's 4 months old. Kind of feels like somebody else's secondhand stuff. And also, XCOM comes out in February, which I feel is like a game that could do really well on PC.
Yeah.
Imagine if they sniped a second release date from them, like some other huge game came in when the PC date happens.
Yeah. It might be happening, That's the other thing we have to talk about, too, is the fact that there really wasn't any good time this year for them to release it. We talk about the Fallout 4 comparison, obviously, but even as far back as just like a couple of weeks ago, they've got Halo 5's launch that they're competing with if they want to move it a little earlier. They've got Call of Duty just last week, basically, that was basically dealing with the exact same timeline. And then now, if they wanted to release it today or next week, that's maybe not even in time for the holiday rush, right? You got to get in there like a month in advance of Black Friday even.
Yeah, I guess you're right about that. I was going to say make it first week of December or something, but yeah, Black Friday is kind of huge. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think
January, February, do that.
Mm-hmm. I think with this being such a big game, it's a different argument. I think just because this is Tomb Raider, it's not some little studio. This is a big project. It may not seem like it when you compare it to things like Grand Theft Auto and Fallout 4, but you got to keep in mind those literally are two of the biggest game launches
ever
of the decade. Basically,
it feels like a January game, doesn't it? It feels like the second tier of the AAA games. Like it's not the Grand Theft Auto or the Fallout. It needs to know it needs to be a level down from that.
And I think they do. I think they realize that. They just sort of didn't acknowledge it this year for some reason, and they're being punished for it now in a very big way. Like these numbers are not good.
I feel like Tomb Raider is one of those games that there is like a core of people who are actually really excited for it, but then most people are kind of like I imagine we are, where we're like, well, if there's nothing else coming out and it's apparently great, I would play Tomb Raider, but there's just no way to fit it in right now. I actually really liked the Tomb Raider reboot, and it gets shit on for things that I don't normally have a problem with, like QuickTime events. I'm like, they kind of fit in here. Like I thought that was a pretty good game, but I have no motivation to play this, to like go to the console that I like to play things on least and play this against another game like Fallout 4. Or even like for us, Afterbirth is still kind of in that position where I'm playing like the shit out of it. So I don't know. It's just like, it's terrible timing. I have to imagine that it was an accident. If it's not an accident, how in the world does that... how do you say like, yeah, we'll go toe to toe with Fallout 4?
I really think it was probably just their worst nightmare, the way Fallout 4 kind of came about. They've been planning this for so long that the introduction of something like Fallout 4 is just the worst case scenario that you fear having to deal with, I guess, in their position. And they did, and now everything's ruined, more or less, for them.
Is it ego that tells them not to move the date once you find out you're about to get stomped that day?
It might just be even the difficulty of getting something like that done at this level.
Yeah. No, you're probably right.
If you're an indie developer, you just say, oh, no, we're going to release in February. Not a big deal. But with these guys, 40 people probably have to be involved in the process of getting their release date changed. Yeah. So it's
crazy.
Oh, no, I never implied it was simple. There's freaking marketing materials already ready to go and commercials being made and dates put on everything.
When did they go gold? Do we know? When did the Rise of the Tomb Raider go gold? Because if they didn't even finish the game until recently, maybe that would be another factor in whether or not it was, a release date that they had in mind for a long time.
Looks like October 9th.
October 9th, okay. No, I think, man, that is... They had a lot of time to think about this. They just decided they could do it, I can't really fault them for having the ambition.
Wonder, how much of it is also Microsoft saying you have to launch in November to sell as many Xbox Ones as possible?
That might have been in there.
Oh, that has
well.
got to be a huge factor.
Yeah. Microsoft's probably like, holiday season, we need to push them.
That's probably the biggest factor. They probably said, we're willing to throw you under the bus, Tomb Raider, so we sell more systems. because we don't care about your franchise. We bought your franchise basically.
It
Well,
gives
that would
them
be
this holiday.
Yeah.
It gives them a bundle as well
Yep.
that they have been selling during the holiday season, if I remember correctly. Which that might be valuable for Microsoft. And to be fair, like, isn't that what they get when they buy the exclusive?
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
get this. They get to
There's a Tomb Raider console bundle.
That's what I thought I saw one said. Rise of the Tomb Raider Xbox One bundle.
And so we probably don't have those numbers yet, but I doubt that that's going to be, a significant bump.
Oh,
Oh,
It'll
maybe
be
this is
interesting.
only a Canada thing. I'm not
okay.
sure.
Yeah.
$449. You get Tomb Raider in the definitive, like I forget what they call it, the new generation edition when they re-released it on Xbox One.
I think it's
And
the
also-
On Fleek edition, actually, is what
Yeah.
they're calling it now.
the on
That's what the
fleek.
kids call it.
Yeah.
I
And
think it was definitive.
also Rise of the Tomb Raider. So you get both Tomb Raiders and the console, $449 with 2 asterisks next to it,
Which means you don't actually get the console. You get smacked in the face.
They also did a thing where if you buy Fallout 4 for Xbox One, they give you Fallout 3
Yeah.
as a download. So they're pushing you get the old version of this too.
And on Xbox One you get mods on Fallout 4 too.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh.
That was like
Select
the big
ones,
announcement.
I guess, and
I'm
also
sure they have to be
probably they'll all
approved
crash
in
the
some
game.
way. Yeah, because I mean,
Well, is
but
that in
that's
place
something-
right now? That's what I was wondering.
I don't know if it's in place right. I don't know if it's in
Probably
place
not.
right
Okay.
away.
And-
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be
this-
really interesting to see next year how much this affects the bundles and the sales of the Xbox One, if at all. Because the system should probably be coming into its own by this point, I would think.
With this being any indication, I really don't think that Tomb Raider is going to have much of a sway anymore. They might kind of be breathing their last breath if this doesn't pick up.
To be fair to the Xbox One, they did. They had the highest sales in October, I think, of any of the consoles.
That's good.
And they've been like not neck and neck, but they've been doing relatively well against the PS4 specifically. PS4, I still think has many more units sold lifetime, but the Xbox One has some momentum. Where it came from, I have very little idea.
Drastic price cuts around a whole bunch of big box retailers. They keep cutting $50 or $100 off of it for sales and bundling in a bunch of games.
Halo 5 probably.
I was saying, I'm
sold
sure
some
Halo
consoles,
5
too.
was the
That
big,
makes sense.
a big push.
All the people who didn't buy an Xbox One for Master Chief Collection
Did
will
so
pick up
now
one for Halo 5 instead.
Yeah, with the game that actually works, that's an easier sell too.
Well,
Yeah,
working
it's-
games.
I think we can attribute it to just sort of there was probably a mindset, a contingent of people that thought we really should consider moving this date, but then it was probably outweighed by A, B, and C of all sorts of exclusivity contract deals wrapped up into there's no way we can move this date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
feel
mean,
like I'm pretty happy settling on that. Yeah.
That's I kind of, not that we have data to back it up, but I kind of like the theory that Microsoft was like, we want a holiday bundle.
Yeah.
So come out with it here. That's a great bundle game, if you're basically getting the game for free and you were thinking about buying the console anyway, that seems good. But it sucks for Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics because how many people bought a boxed copy of like Amped for their Xbox One? That's the way I feel about it right now. It's like it really like devalues the future copies sold of the game, I think, or minimizes the ability to sell them.
Yeah.
And then Amped comes out on PC, and everybody's like, "That's a shitty bundle game. Get that in the bargain bin. I don't want that."
Yeah. Here's the simple thing that I never even really like think about it anymore, which is kind of shitty, but honestly, I guess just my position has changed. I probably if 10 years ago I was like looking at this as just someone who buys games and likes to play a lot of games, Tomb Raider coming out and it being $60 compared to, so many other games that are coming out right now that all have that full price tag, I probably can't really afford to get Tomb Raider. And that alone is probably one of the biggest impacts, is that not only are they competing with games that they don't really have either the marketing budget or really the overall hold on the gaming industry to compete against, but they're also just straight up kind of devoiding people of the ability to buy the game. Like, people do not have enough money to buy all these games, so they sort of have to just make a determination that Tomb Raider's probably not going to be on the top of that list, right?
It's probably one of the best holiday seasons for video games in a long time.
It is, yeah.
It's one of those like Tomb Raider. Maybe if it came out was it last year that Tomb Raider came out? Or was it the year before?
2013.
All right, so if this game had come out maybe last year, I don't remember anything huge coming out last year that would have been better. But this year, like, damn, man, there's like so many good games coming out.
The other thing
I feel like
with Tomb Raider 2013, they came out with it in March, so March or May. So
Yeah.
it was like, why you should just do that again.
Yeah.
But hindsight is 2020.
They chose to go the exclusivity route, and I guess that paid dividends for them. And I guess they're willing to trade the front loading that versus back loading it.
Yeah, seems like it. Well, on the flip side of that, Fallout 4 is doing okay.
Oh, yeah, really?
weird,
Pretty
right?
weird.
They've sold a handful of units. Looking like Bethesda launched. This is straight from Bethesda Softworks press release, so we're getting the genuine article here. Bethesda launched with approximately 12 million units worldwide to meet day one demand. 12 million.
Yeah, that's so insane.
Sales
What
in
did GTA
excess.
do?
What's that?
What did GTA
What did
do
GTA
first,
do?
then?
I'm curious. Yeah.
I remember reading a story. It was like a month after GTA's release, but they had shipped something like 33 million,
Oh my God.
which is
Damn.
not sales, but still.
No, this is comparison. This is launched 12 million units shipped worldwide. So that that's about the exact same.
It's their
comparison
biggest
to
selling
make.
game of all time, Bethesda.
Dude, this article is so good. So we know that shipping copies doesn't necessarily mean they're sold, but
Yeah.
probably, a lot of the copies are being sold. Fortune, you may know as being a magazine that lists the richest people in the world, has an article about Fallout 4 sales called "You Likely Never Heard of the Best-Selling Game of 2015." Who in the world knows what video games are, but has never heard of Fallout? This is like a fictional person that only knows Call of Duty and Madden.
yeah,
Like,
right, exactly.
Only 2 video games exist, man.
Drinks Mountain Dew and eats Doritos. That's dumb.
The best-selling
Microsoft.
game of 2015. You won't believe what's at number 4. It's not Candy Crush.
Gamers hate him.
Oh man.
It is doing well. We've all had a lot more time with it now.
Yeah.
So what is people's thoughts?
Okay, so I haven't even gone to Diamond City yet. And,
Okay.
I'm about 25 hours in, I'd say. I've been putting a decent amount of time into it now, and I'm trying to get into the sanctuary and the settlement building in a big way, actually, because I've leveled up my character with those local leader perks. So now I can, build shops and have supply lines connecting things, and I'm a little disappointed in it. In the overall sense, I don't necessarily like the way you build things. I think Nick mentioned this before the show was starting, that they
can't
need
stand
like a grid system, to actually
Yeah.
give you.
And the defense that I hear is, well, it's supposed to be janky because it's post-apocalyptic. It's like,
No.
okay, that's fine for you. I like building on a
That is
grid, and I would
terrible.
take the time. If I was role-playing, if I was that dude,
Yeah.
I would still line up 90-degree angles because I care about that as a person.
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna
know
go
it's a
ahead
nitpick,
and
it doesn't really matter, but it bothers me personally. And I know a mod will solve it in 5 seconds.
let's not argue for like preserving the realism of apocalyptic shelter building. Like I'm okay
Yeah.
with having radiated dogs that lunge at my jugular. Let's let that
Yes.
be representative of the apocalypse. Let me build on a grid. Still, we can have both. We can compromise on that. But I mean that part of it is definitely still compelling. Like I'm still interested in building out my settlement, which obviously is not even really the game, which is the craziest part. I've spent probably 40% of my time playing Fallout 4 and not playing Fallout 4 Settlement Warrior, which has been my favorite game.
Admittedly, I was about to say, like, my condolences. But that is, I have to accept that not everybody is into it for the same reason I'm into it, but I find the settlement stuff really tedious and annoying.
I think you're
And
outnumbered in this group too, aren't you, as far as that's concerned?
That's fine. I accept that. But I kind of hate it. And I love the gunplay. I'm fine with the dialogue, although I am running into some stuff with, like Mathas was talking about, that it not having more dialogue options is getting a little lame. But the gunplay and the combat is awesome. But whenever I have to do something in the settlement, I'm like, fucking. So, like, I get a companion, and I'm, like, punished because they went back to Sanctuary. I've got to build, like, a new bed and add an addition onto the house.
Yeah.
And then, like, the walls don't snap on right. Like, they're snapping on at 180 when I need them to snap on at 90 degrees. And then people were like, oh, you got to put a floor down. Okay. So then I delete everything, put a floor down. But then the floor is now on top of the bed because they thought that I wanted to place
I
the
swear to
floor
God,
up there.
everything just elevates by default. It's just
Yeah.
raised off the ground by 5 inches, and that's just the normal expectation.
The only, like I've put probably a lot of time into crafting, but the only project I really am enjoying is I'm building like a hanger for all my power armor.
All right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good.
So that's like the big thing that I've got is like this big hanger, and I've got all these power armor stations and like lights in between, and I have like different power armor
Yes.
setups. It's like completed on one side, broken apart ones on the other side. Like that's fun. But I've had to come to accept that I love this game, but I love it despite the fact that it's not really a Fallout game, in that options to do different things aren't really there. There's really not a lot of skill checks in the game. You know, like in New Vegas, you had Edie, who you have like 4 different ways you could activate them. Like that stuff doesn't exist. The conversation system doesn't exist. You can't really be a bad guy in Fallout 4. You're just a good guy, or kind of like a dick of a good guy, like in Mass Effect, where you're like renegade. You're still a good guy, but you're kind of just like a dickish good guy.
You're like Han Solo.
Yeah, exactly.
Sarcastic good guy.
Like it really strips away a lot of the options. But despite that, if I look at it as like a fun open world sandboxy shooter, I really love it for that.
Yeah. I do want to mention. Sorry, Nick, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I got so into the idea of the settlement thing, and I was running around. I was like cleaning up all the trees and cleaning up all the broken fences. I was like, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. I was so excited. And then I got to the part where I put down the first wall. I was like, what? No, you're kidding me, right? And I was like, chat, where do I hit? Where's the grid button? I need this to snap. And they're like, there isn't a grid.
Yeah, good luck.
The only reason I was so bothered is because I was so excited by it at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, if I didn't ever get that invested into the idea, I would have just been like, whatever, moving on. And that's eventually what I did. It's not like I'm dwelling on losing sleep over not gridding my house, but it matters, and I think it is a big part of the gameplay if you choose to accept it, and I did want to accept it and embrace it, but I didn't have the option. But still, I got into some wild adventures anyway, so it's not like I'm not having fun.
Yeah.
Although the bugs are cropping up more than ever now, and it's starting to bug me a little.
Oh, I found a way to get underneath the game, by the way, so that
Nice.
was a lot of fun.
Oh, well, really? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I just fell
Bears
straight
with
through.
Adventures.
I think
go?
I actually might have broken it for myself. I can't get into Cambridge Police Station anymore. That's the door that breaks the game for me. So I go in there, and then it sounds like every item in there is desperately shuffling around to try to figure out how the fuck to put my character in the building, and it can't do it. So it just forces me down through every time, and then the classical radio station is playing. So as I'm just descending into the abyss, there's this nice piano ballad going on.
Awesome.
It's very enjoyable.
I find that the bugs often give the game plenty of character, and moments like you had are actually kind of like hilarious little experiences. I was running into stuff that was a little bit more insidious and obnoxious, like the texture level of distance not loading in, so I just run into these flat, blurred textures, or like flat things that were not actually there, but they were walls, but you could walk through them, so I had to like quit and reload the game a bunch. I had my map stop appearing for a while, or my fast travel wouldn't let me click on it. The UI kept breaking. It's like, all right, now I know Bethesda, I'm not surprised, but like these things are a little bit encumbrances in me enjoying the game, so let's get those patches going. We'll be all right again.
I did want to talk about both Ryan and Mathas kind of touched on this. The dialogue options and just in general, the ability to not really be an evil person. I know this is sort of a hot topic right now as far as Fallout 4 is concerned, so I do want to kind of weigh in on that. What are you guys? What are your opinions in general on just your freedom of moral choice in the game?
There isn't.
There isn't. Yeah.
It feels super linear, just like we're just along for the ride.
Yeah,
I wish there
that's
wasn't
all
voice
script.
acting at all. I wish it was just the way it was in 3.
Yep, I'm 100% with Nick. I wish the main character didn't have a freaking voice. Just let me do what I fucking want, man. Like you completely stripped away the freedom to tell your own story, and you're just telling us this one story, and I don't give a shit about like at all right now.
I feel like that's I agree, but I also feel like that's such I hesitate to say this because I feel like the more people love something, the more important the minor criticisms can become if there's a change. Like, I agree that it's less of a sandbox, which is a little unfortunate, but it hasn't, like, killed very much enjoyment in the game for me. Like, you can still be kind of a dick, right? Like, you can't actually be like Darth Vader, but you can still be kind of an asshole. The thing that bothers me more than that is that the dialogue options don't have the actual check registered to them anymore.
Yeah.
Like the not even a percentage chance, but like what your speech stat would need to be, because it no longer uses that. And I'm like, well, why do I even have?
Like, I remember in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, man. If like all chat options now in Fallout 4, the optional ones are all based on charisma. Period.
Okay.
But in other ones, you used to have like, if you had a high science stat, you could give like a scientific reply, or if you had a high intelligence, you could give it an intelligent reply. If you were like intimidating, you can give it like an intimidating reply. Like all that's gone. It is just charisma. Yellow is good, orange is pretty bad, red is good fucking luck, and that's the only stats that you have. And that I get it. And again, I'm loving Fallout 4 despite that. But I really miss that aspect of Fallout, and it doesn't feel like Fallout to me without those options. Instead, it feels like an open world, Borderlandy kind of just exploration gun game.
Yeah.
So which is fun, but it's not Fallout.
Can you help me remember when you said the good funkin' luck ones? Like those were percentages in 3, right? So you could have like a
10%,
10% or something like that. You could still attempt them, though, right? Because in this, you mostly just can't even attempt them. If it's like a computer hacking thing, it's just like, you can't do that. You don't have the skills to even try. Could you do that in 3? Because I feel like you could.
You could always attempt something if you had like the bare minimum requirements for it.
New Vegas was kind of bullshit for that, though. Because you'd go to like a terminal, it would be like, oh, this is a hard one. But it was just like the word is longer that you have to hack. And then, like, the same thing for lockpicking was, like, you could do it, but the range at which it was actually successful was more narrow, which is kind of like it. But that's the kind of shit that I think people just gloss over, because they're like, that's how Fallout works. But playing New Vegas for the first time in 2015, I was like, that's kind of a janky way to, like, artificially change the difficulty. But, so, I mean maybe that's why, like, in 4, I'm a little bit more receptive
Fallout
to the
in
changes.
4, the hacking is the bigger, the more difficult, the longer the word still. That's still.
And that's why I'm just using that as an example of like not everything maybe in New Vegas is something that I feel needs to be preserved throughout the franchise, I guess.
I think
Although
for another level of pedantry there too is the fact that basically no matter how long you make the word, that entire system is predicated upon the fact that you can solve every single one.
Oh yeah.
If you look at it the right way, you know, like
if you fail, you can just back out before your final.
Well, that too, but also there's like a built-in formula that makes it so you can guess every single password if you consider every single variable. You know, it's like it literally can be solved every single time if you just pay attention. So there's not really a way to make that more challenging, I guess, which means
just overhaul the minigame, I guess.
Yeah, that would be kind of the only way to do it.
With.
Mm-hmm.
I just miss options. I think that's my only problem. My biggest gripe is I miss the options that Fallout gives you.
Mm-hmm.
Fallout used to be all about the myriad of different ways you could accomplish tasks, and that feels like it's gone.
I agree with you there. Like I never really took an issue with the idea of there being a voice actor. I think there are certain times where I'm not really a fan of the way he reacts to certain things. He sort of plays an everyman a lot more often than I'd like him to. You know, he the voice he uses is sort of just meant to be a character that you can sink yourself into. But often I find myself looking at the ways he reacts to things as you're just sort of being like you're just doing what we would expect you to do. And there's not really any sort of flavor or variety to the interactions that the main character provides.
You don't have the option, though, of role-playing as this character because you don't know what they're even going to say. So
yeah,
you're just
that's
kind of
true, too. Exactly.
Passively.
Like, the dialogue options are so vague. And I think we touched on this last time as well. Yeah. It's just like there's so many instances where you have absolutely no fucking idea what he's going to say. Especially if you choose the sarcastic option. That one's just completely out of left field.
But it's going to be sarcastic.
Mm-hmm.
You know that much.
I do agree that it feels less like an RPG and more like a shooter.
Correct.
But I guess where I disagree is that I actually feel like, I mean, it's way too early for me to say that I like it more or less than Fallout New Vegas, but the shooting is like, it's really good.
Oh,
and I feel like
that.
when you play like New Vegas, you kind of just like, it's like playing Diablo, where you just sort of click to attack and that's it. And I know if you really boil it down, like all shooters are click to attack. You just paint your mouse cursor over them, right? But it's a little bit needlessly reductive.
Aren't all games just click to attack, Ryan?
Exactly. But it was more like click to attack, and then like some dice rolls happen that determine how it goes. Fallout 4, you know, I think it's the first time you can actually be like, oh, the shooting is actually like really good and satisfying.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, man, I missed that through like the 80 hours of New Vegas or something that I played. So there's a little trade-off there. Right now, I'm finding it enjoyable as a result. And I haven't really eaten the penalty for having few dialogue options, but I imagine that I probably will when I get to like a higher level. And in New Vegas, you're like, well, I used to have 11 things I could do here. Now I have 4. I don't like that the persuasion dialogue options are always a percentage chance. And I believe that the higher your charisma stat and the perks that you have, the more likely it is to be like a green persuasion check instead of a yellow or a red.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. I've actually maxed out the charisma stat, and I still get quite a few of the red ones. So I feel maybe that's just sort of like it just persistent maybe through the whole thing. I don't know.
Maybe there's other elements that checks against.
But maybe if you had a lower charisma stat, you would have more yellows and reds.
Maybe yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just I don't know. But I dislike that because I feel like if you commit to putting like 10 in a special, you should be set for the game.
Yeah.
Like I feel like in Fallout New Vegas when your speech hit like 90, you could just do whatever you wanted with it, and I feel like that's something you should be able to do. And with charisma at like 8, I'm still like, hey, can you give me like 25 extra caps for this? And then they're like, nah, sorry. Like we rolled the dice and we decided you can't. But.
And I agree with you that like change is good, and I really like the gunplay change, and I love that because if you're gonna put somebody in first to third person and with a gun, you want the controls to feel like a shooter. That makes sense, and I agree that in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, the shooting was janky at best, and you used VATS as often as you could. I just wish it didn't come at the expense of options as to what to do in the game, because again, I feel like it is just an open world shooter where you're looking for loot, and the story kind of plays second fiddle to the mechanics of the game. And again, not having the options to do what you want really, it kills me. It kills me as an RPG and a Fallout lover. Somebody who's played all of the Fallouts multiple times, I miss just having options. Simple as that.
There's options in different ways, though, and I think the meat and potatoes for the game for me is the exploration, the loot, and the like inventory management stuff, which I know a lot of people find annoying, but I'm like a Borderlands Diablo guy. I love that stuff. So I spent a lot of time wandering. I didn't follow the quest lines at all. I just kind of walked across from the west to the east coast, and then I got a perk somewhere along the line that let me swim with no breath meter, so I just started swimming along the coast down south. And I had a lot of fun just like randomly seeing what I'd run into. Eventually I found a freaking fat man over there, which was awesome because now I've got a super freaking awesome gun that I didn't expect to run into because I decided to go to like the hardest area in the game for no reason, even though it was like level 5. And I love doing that kind of shit where there's like actually crazy areas you're not supposed to be in, and I find myself there and I try to exploit it a little bit. It's sort of sequence breaking. And
I'll double down on that too, actually. Yeah, I really like that still. There is that freedom has been preserved, at least. While there not be as much freedom in the realm of dialogue and narrative, I think the idea of being able to just go around and do whatever the fuck you want is still very much alive in the game.
And that's, I think, the strongest element of Fallout for me. I mean, those complaints I had about the dialogue, sure, they come up pretty frequently because you do have to push the story along eventually. But if you're after what I'm after, like, you'll still have a great time, and I am. I'm not really upset with the game, ultimately.
No, I think it's like Ryan said, you know, like the more we glorify something, the more analytical we become about every single little nitpicky detail.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, so
we're breaking it down so we have something to talk about is what it is. I don't think any of us are
besides
really
just gushing for it for another half hour or so. But no, I think it's valid to say that maybe just the entire formula for how Bethesda approaches your, you know, like the finality of decisions and also, you know, like your ability to actually impact things in a meaningful way as far as your interactions with people and the way that you choose to progress the story is, you know, it's not always been this way, but it certainly seems like they're going a lot more in the route of sort of linear stuff, which doesn't necessarily work as well with these games, at least in our opinion.
You know, it's like Isaac when they do something like nerf Krampus's head. make it like a 6-room charge instead of a 3-room charge. People who are really into Isaac are like, this is irredeemable, and everybody else that's like a little bit more casually into the game is like, I didn't even notice a change at all. Like, I think that's kind of like Mathas and myself, is that Mathas is so into it that he can like care about the minutia, and I'm just kind of like, it misses me because I haven't been submerged in the universe long enough to care.
Yeah. And I may be even just like right between you guys, where I do enjoy the series. I don't think I've really invested myself too heavily into it. Like I, for example, am not the kind of person who would argue for the existence of cats in the game, like Mathas would, based on lore, and not anything else. But
He was arguing for the non-existence of cats, wasn't he?
yeah, no, that's what I was saying. Is like
Yeah.
I definitely am not close to that realm of knowledge of the game, but I do, like I enjoyed, and I think
Right.
just in general, my experience has been very solid and positive. Like I've been boasting about the game on Twitter quite a bit too, so it's still been just extremely good. But we do like to.
I mean, yeah, I have 30 hours into it so far. I love it. There's no doubt. I love it. I have my complaints. So.
Well, let's get into Isaac now that we mentioned that. If you guys have not been following the madness, the Binding of Isaac Afterbirth community has been participating in an alternate reality game with the developers, with Edmund and Tyrone in particular, who set about to make sure that what happened with The Lost did not happen again with Afterbirth. Can I?
Got complicated.
It did, yeah. Nick, give me like the brass tacks rundown, and then we'll get into we're gonna break this down so you guys can see just how totally insane this was.
So the first element that I became aware of was the constant use of this number 109. That was just being thrown around with no real context. Well, the game was still fairly new. Everyone was sort of testing the limits of what really was at the base level of this expansion pack. Are there going to be many secret characters? Are there going to be all these items that are not on the list? I remembered hearing that Edmund and Tyrone had said there's going to be this many new items, and then I looked at the list and like, there aren't that many new items. Something's wrong here. Eventually it came to light that there was something amiss in, I don't know if it was bugs or testing or something that just didn't come out right. Eventually they patched in a set of new items. Now along the same time with this was maybe, a week and a half, 2 weeks after launch, along with this, they started doling out this generosity achievement to certain people, and it used to look like one thing, and then it looked like another thing after the patch. Now, after the patch, it started to look a little bit like dots and dashes, which, as it turned out to be, it was. So someone decoded this, turned it into a series of numbers, which then correlated with a word called, it said Larabeel, and then we eventually figured out this is an Imgur link. Following that Imgur link led to a picture of the Lost with a bunch of shadows and a quote that said, and he removed that day that he goats, I think is what
Something
that says.
like that, yeah. It's a very interesting quote.
Really odd thing. Now, if you're following along with this, all of these things seem very out of context and sort of meaningless until you realize that actually part of the ARG is to follow Tyrone and Edmund's personal Twitter accounts. Edmund had posted a picture of a spider that he'd found in his garage, and the spider was not at all the focus of that picture. In the background, there was an image or a movie poster from the movie The Lost Boys. That was actually a correlation to that last image with the picture of the Lost and those shadows behind it. You're supposed to put these two things together. There was then a tweet or several tweets. One of them eventually had a quote, "People are strange," which is the song that was played in the introduction of The Lost Boys. So there's many points to reiterate and bring people back to this element of this movie has something to do with this game.
I want to slow you down for a second here, too, because I just want to, I point out the absurdity a little bit just from, we're breaching the surface level of this ARG right now. And think about already the steps that have been required. We're decoding hidden Morse code in order to lead to a code that ends up being an Imgur link that turns out to lead to an image with the Lost, with a random Bible quote, it seems, followed by an indication that we have to look into their personal Twitter accounts for potential clues. And when you see it all mapped out like this, you don't appreciate how insane that is to come to that conclusion.
And that's not even the craziest parts yet.
Yeah, no, we're not even close. So, okay, Mathas, want you to pick up where you left off here.
I don't know any of the shit that
I know, but we're all
Just
learning
make
together.
it up. No.
It's about the same thing.
I don't.
So,
what do you want me to
so
say?
we're in the Lost Boys part, right? So you're following along with the image here.
I do not have.
Okay, you got to pull that up, man. You got to be on
I
board
didn't
with
know.
this.
Keep going. I wasn't paying attention.
So, People Are Strange is the song playing in the introduction scene of The Lost Boys. The poster in the background does not even have the words The Lost Boys on it. It's just a poster for the movie.
Fairly recognizable image if you were around to see that movie being promoted, I suppose.
Yeah.
Although I think a lot of people wouldn't have made that correlation.
Right. So, in the introduction to The Lost Boys, the film, the movie's characters, I'm just reading straight from the image here. The movie's characters are on the Santa Cruz boardwalk. There are many shots showing dozens of wanted posters. So they made that correlation. They made a tie between the introduction to the film The Lost Boys and then made a reference to that within the most recent ending, which was added into Afterbirth, showing a missing poster for Isaac, I believe.
I thought there was also a timestamp in one of the tweets as well that pointed to a specific shot in the intro of that movie. Like, if you knew what the time was and applied it to the movie, you would see the pictures of the wanted posters.
Oh my god, that would be...
I don't see that on this list, but I remember that point coming up during the discussion of this. So I was kind of actively following this along.
I think right here you might be pointing this out. More specifically, near a train bridge at the 30:35 mark in The Lost Boys, a character says "perfect timing," and then it cuts to a scene at a train bridge.
Yeah.
So they went. On the hunt for clues near the Santa Cruz boardwalk.
Into the world now.
Yeah. So they're looking now. That Edmund had started to imply that the things they were looking for were like physical items outside of the game and in the real world.
Yes.
Just rescinding into the hoodie. That is good. Character says perfect timing. It cuts to a scene at a train bridge. Reddit user goes out and looks for clues in Santa Cruz. He finds an actual missing poster for The Binding of Isaac that is out on the Santa Cruz Boulevard, or Boardwalk, I think. And, man, it just keeps going. We're not even halfway through.
I've noticed.
God.
Oh, my God.
I'm going to go pee. I'll be right back.
I'm going to get some coffee.
All right,
Holy
everyone's
shit.
leaving.
Yeah,
I thought
guess
this
so.
was pretty interesting.
No, it certainly is.
So there was a phone number on the bottom. Part of it was missing. And they needed to put together the way to figure out the last 4 digits, which is apparently a reference to John 424, which was a hint to the area code of the phone number. I'm not really sure I followed how they came up with those last digits here.
No, me neither. Yeah,
Last 4 digits were found by logic based on the fact that it took data miners 109 hours to discover the lost. That's very vague.
Yeah.
So something to do with the lost's origination led to them being able to figure out the last 4 numbers. But this is where it got really cool, because now they have a phone number to call, and they start calling, and there's this backmasked phrase. It says, hello, and then backward word, I'm your backward word. I know what you came for, but I need to hear you ask me. So you had to figure out that the backward words by recording the message and playing it to yourself. The backwards words were Isaac and father. So, hello, Isaac, I am your father. I know what you came for. I need to hear you ask me. So then the next thing became, how do we figure out what to leave as a message on this voicemail to get to the next stage of this?
Oh, my God. And they have the voicemail out, by the way. There's the link. I think they still have that available if you want to listen to it. It is the narration is done by the same narrator for the intro to the game, so it's actually kind of cool that they got him to do this as well. Yeah. The voicemail, they figured that out for a while. They answered to the question, "Where are you?" Which was, I guess, hinted by...
It's in the item log.
Yeah.
So if you're collecting all the items and you have a series of them next to each other, there was a bunch of hidden messages overlaid on top of them, which they then subsequently patched out after the message was taken.
Wow. So they're...
Hours later the voicemail changed, and then after they'd given them the proper message, it speaks, Christ calls, generous gods don't guide history forever. Backwards words, we need to go deeper.
Knowledge
and then the backwards
grows.
words, knowledge grows. His final form ends beyond greed. So at that point, you're starting to get implications about the game. But remember, very little of this had to do with the actual game and playing it.
Yeah.
There were just sort of meta levels about the game that were happening, like that message in the UI. So some time passed. Eventually, there was another tweet We almost revealed more evil, right? Is what Edmund tweeted, and you were supposed to look at the first letter of each one of those words to spell warmer.
I think a lot of it sort of just became, silly for the sake of being silly about it. Like there's parts where you're just introducing obstacles that really add nothing to it. Like recording backwards words again is just for fun, and then Edmund was just be goofing with these guys at this point.
After a while, though, they had tweeted a bunch of random letters to Edmund that they had decoded from something else, and then Edmund realized that was the correct message to advance things again. And what we figured out was eventually there was a series of coordinates, which for GPS, like lat-long coordinates, which led to a building in Santa Ana, which happened to have the address 109. I think Brian just dead. What happened?
I can't believe this is still happening.
It's still going, man.
Well, we're almost done.
So we're almost there, yeah.
Ate Fruity Pebbles for breakfast, and he used 2% milk instead of skim milk, and there's meaning inherent in the
Look, they made it up to be a fun little game.
My name's Northernlion, and I think when people have fun, it sucks.
No, the ARG was really cool. Just going over every single step is exhausting,
It's
man.
to emphasize how ridiculous it
exactly.
was.
We're giving credence to the degree of difficulty that this took. I want to appreciate the
So
level.
I can cover the
of
last
depth.
bits here quickly.
Yeah.
The coordinates led to a building, happened to have photography. There was an area on the ground with some change on it. People went there and found it. They dug up a little greed statue, which had numbers and an @ sign on its head, apparently, although it doesn't look like an @ sign. They put together that Greed apparently had a Twitter account, and then they had to hack into that Twitter account to make it say things, and then after they made it say the right thing, the community unlocks a new character for the game, and that's the end of the ARG. Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so maybe we didn't need to break the whole thing down, but I do like that we did, because goddamn, it's ridiculous. So this unlocks a new character in the game called the Keeper, and the Keeper, a lot of people have said, is really not that fun to play, unfortunately, right?
No.
Yeah,
I haven't talked to anyone who's played him, really.
Yeah, it's another very difficult character. So he starts with he starts with 2 coins for hearts, and you can lose those. You can regain those back just by picking up coins. I believe red hearts drop as blue flies, and then there's a couple of other differences in the game. He is a very different character, so at least there's that. Like it's a very different way to play the game, much in the same way that Greed Mode, which was a much different way to play the game in general. But I think the reward was certainly fitting. It's a very different piece of the Rebirth puzzle, and it was just, man, that was just wild.
So
I'm glad there was more to it. I didn't want it to end up not being a character. Sorry, Ryan, go ahead.
please don't take my resident sleeping as me not being down with the ARG, because I stayed up to watch it resolve, and I was like, this is really cool. And every time there was like a new piece of the treasure hunt they got uncovered, I was like, whoa, I can't believe Edmund and Tyrone went to this much trouble.
Yeah.
And I also love that one of the guys who went to the Santa Ana building and found the mini Greed statue was like, yeah, there was also like a van, and we saw a dude in it. So we all sprinted over to it, and then when we sprinted, it just turned its lights on and sped away as quickly as it could. And I was like, fucking the idea of Tyrone being like in his van, just like taking pictures, and then they start sprinting, and he's like, oh shit, gotta, like, that is really actually hilarious to me.
I hope it wasn't just some random guy that saw like a group of 4 or 5 teenagers just start sprinting at his car.
So I actually really like the ARG, and I know that there's a subset of people who are like, well, I don't really like the ARG, and I wish they hadn't gated content. That's fine, but at the same time, I think that in a year, people are going to remember the ARG more fondly, and they're not going to give a shit that it took a couple of extra weeks in order to unlock it. And admittedly, I'm kind of biased towards Isaac and the creators, because they basically helped me pay my bills. But it's like, they did something unique and special with it instead of just kind of floating it out there. If they just gated the content and then been like, oh, here it is, fuck you for data mining the Lost last year.
Yeah.
Then that would have been one thing that would have come across in poor taste, I think. But to have like a cool kind of like outside of the game treasure hunt to go along with it, I think more than makes up for it.
Agreed.
I mean,
In my
I
opinion.
actually personally would have preferred that it was all inclusive in the game somehow, that you could have actually done like a grander version of what they did with the Lost, only I understand why they did it this way. The data mining was going to happen no matter what they did. So it was kind of the only way to proceed. But, you know, all things being the same, if there was a way that we could have collectively figured things out as a community within the game, and like we had to dig this certain spot on Hush, and then that would lead to this new floor, like that would have been really exciting.
Yeah.
And we could have all been having hands-on experience with it at the same time, whereas we can't all go to Santa Ana, California and dig a hole, right? So that kind of feels like it's just for a certain group of people that are able to do that. But still, it was cool to follow along and watch as it evolved on Twitter and all that.
I agree.
It was fun.
It was just. I wasn't expecting that. That's for damn sure. That totally caught me off guard to see that all did play out that way. Like when I initially saw everyone reacting so negatively toward Edmund and the team, you know, for
Yeah, that pissed me off a little
supposedly
bit.
being a very counter community, it seemed. That was I didn't at all expect that would lead into, oh, there's this tremendous alternate reality game that they've developed for you to play. And obviously the community did a pretty quick 180 as soon as that all started to come into play, and now they are all back on board for the most part, I think. But that was a crazy turn of events. I don't think they were ready to see everyone kind of just turn on a dime like that, you know?
Yeah.
It was like as soon as the vile behavior was detected, is instantly it was like, Edmund is the worst human being of all fucking time, you know? And that was...
But now it's
Which
okay.
is true. But,
yeah.
I'm glad 109 wasn't a troll. Like, that whole
Yeah.
thing wasn't just like, we're just going to make fun of the situation. Instead, they actually turned it into something pretty cool. So if it ended up leading nowhere, I think there would have been a lot more frustration.
Definitely.
guys,
Can't
I
wait
have
to
some
play another
incredible
shit character.
exclusive news.
What's
Yeah.
that?
Political Machine 2016 now available on early access. I'm so ready.
Oh man.
Can we hurry
Can
this up a little bit?
Can I be Bernie?
Yes.
Feel the burn.
You could be any of the presidential candidates, even the fringe ones, or you can make your own candidate. Like you can make literally Satan.
That's a callback, I think.
Yeah.
Satan running for president?
Josh or Melf, one of them played that.
Josh is Satan? That's all I'm
There was
hearing out
like
of
you
this.
can make literally Satan and then just name them like not Satan.
Oh,
and
okay. Yeah, you know. So EA's Battlefront review event was kind of an ordeal. A lot of major outlets refused to go.
What
Which-
is a review event, Bear?
So-
for people who don't know.
A review event, an industry review event, is something that's sort of spawned pretty recently. I think within the last few years, there have been quite a few more of them. It's an event where a lot of the big publications are invited out. So say you've got like your IGN, Kotaku, Destructoid, Polygon, all those people are invited to attend an event that is in a very controlled environment that is kind of designed to provide the reviewers with the most ideal experience possible for the game. So, you know, clearly it's in the publisher and developer's best interest to provide these major outlets with this scenario in order to review their game properly. And, you know, on the flip side, that's clearly not really in the best interest of those publications if, you know, they want to bring the integrity of it into the conversation to, you know, sort of subject themselves to those conditions. So a lot of people now, admirably so, have been refusing to attend these events. And for those very reasons, it seems. They recognize that these review events are very much catered toward making the experience as enjoyable and as positive as they can. And, you know, that's...
It's called bias.
Yeah, very disingenuous, you know? So, the most recent example of this is EA hosting a Star Wars Battlefront review event in Redwood Shores, California. And most places did not go. And Ryan, I know you were reading up about this a lot too pretty recently.
Yeah, you know, review events are something that publications have kind of been pushing back against, which I think is a good thing because it typically ends up being either a huge game that they want to like stop spoilers for, which I feel like in the internet age is just like it's kind of needlessly protective. 'cause
Yeah,
they're
don't
gonna get
even
out
bother.
regardless.
Yeah.
Like Smash
Fallout,
Bros, right?
Yeah, Fallout 4 spoilers came out, like a week before the game actually released, and they're just gonna be out there. It's one of those things that's gonna happen, or it's for multiplayer games, and then it seems dishonest to judge it based on a review event because it's ideal conditions, and you don't know if the servers are actually gonna work on day one. And then as we saw yesterday, like the Battlefront servers just weren't working for a lot of people. So I think it's really positive that a lot of publications are choosing to ignore review events. It makes me wonder if there's going to be pushback against like preview events soon, because we've attended those in the past, and it's a little different. Like it's kind of up to the person's discretion how much they want to be like, well, you can go pre-order it now at like this link in the video description below. But I wonder if maybe that's the next thing, because I think we all agree that, like, I guess it's like nice to be flown to San Francisco and then like play a game with your colleagues, but it would also be like really dope for the publisher to not do that and instead just give you like a time limited Steam key and then be like, hey,
they can. It's happened before.
There are publishers that have done that, and and then but the publishers, they want to keep as much as possible within their control so they can kind of control the message that comes out. And that's why whenever there's a game preview, very rarely is it like, well, it kind of seems shitty.
Yeah.
It's like it's in such ideal circumstances, and the event has been kind of like curated so hard that you're just like, well, it's okay, but we'll see what happens when release comes around. But I would prefer to just get sent the games in the email and then not have to go to the airport at 6 a.m. and then fly back at 8 p.m. that night.
Well, I mean, let's be real. That's sort of a plan that you might be better off going on an overnight trip. But
then it's like I'd rather not have to disclose taking a hotel room. Also, they're usually in like San Francisco. Like if I did it, I would disclose it, but I just prefer to limit it as much as possible. Plus, I live close enough where I'm like, it's only like a 2-hour flight. If I can get like a same-day flight, I'd prefer to. But
get home, not have to worry about it.
Yeah, right. Like wake up in your own bed after like 4 hours of sleep, rather than wake up in San Francisco after 6 hours of sleep, take a 2-hour flight, get home at like noon, and then your day's kind of half shot.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they do these things for a reason, Like when I'm going out to Ubisoft events in San Francisco, for example, they make a point of it to give you a good welcome. Like they take care of us. They don't like put us in goddamn lazy boys and massage our feet or anything like that. I'm saying like they put an effort.
Excellent, though.
Yeah, oh God, I wish they put an effort into making it a very positive environment. The people there they're PR people. They know that the entire point of the YouTubers being there is to get them excited about the game and get them feeling good and positive about it, so they can share that with their audiences. And that I doubt that unless there is a backlash against it, as you mentioned, that they'll ever stop doing that in favor of something like giving out the preview code. I don't know if there will be a similar backlash against the preview events either. I think there's maybe enough of I don't know. I guess just it's not so set in stone when you're discussing a preview event. I think a preview has enough of a leeway to it that you can sort of just present that as information and then add the caveat of, obviously, this is all subject to change and does not necessarily reflect the final build. And then you've got a cop-out for when the game ends up being shit 3 months down the road. So, the preview events I still think are... I don't even necessarily have an issue with preview events either. I think they sort of just provide an opportunity for I think in particular, let's just like refer to it in the sense of for us. So like for events that people like us attend, I think this is good in that it establishes these connections that didn't really exist a few years ago. The developers that are now inviting YouTubers and Twitch streamers out to play their games, such as Ubisoft and now EA with Ronku, obviously they're getting a lot more involved. Or how do you even say that? Is it Ronku? I think it's
That's
Ronku,
how I say it, yeah.
But they're clearly getting a lot more involved on that end, and I think that's overall going to be a positive for the folks that like to rely on YouTubers and Twitch streamers to get a good idea of whether or not they want to buy a game. I think that's a good thing still.
what's nice about the YouTube stuff is that it does lead to footage, I guess.
Yeah.
Instead of just writing. Not that one is necessarily better than the other, but one is probably more representative. So
Definitely.
I feel like we're just thankful that they're validating us as existing, which is not really a good enough reason.
no, that is where I have a problem with it. Is that
Yeah?
I feel like for like a year I was like, these people know I exist, and then now I'm kind of like, just send me the game.
Right, you could have
Like-
footage. It's just all about that they don't trust anybody, right? So if they just sent you the copy, then you could get your footage just fine. It's so they can
Yeah.
massage everything and make it come out the way they want. And I think that's just not the right way to go about it if you want honest representation.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. And that's why like review events I think are a super no-no, because reviews are kind of like, for better or for worse, they're the be-all end-all in the critical part of the games industry. Reviews are like what people get riled up over regardless of the sport. Previews are just kind of content, you know?
Right.
Like previews just exist, and if you're excited for a game, you read it. It's not like it actually has any critical heft to it. But I agree with Nick, and sometimes, not to throw like names out there, but I'll like go to an event like this and people are just like happy to be there, and I'm like, that's not really what. That's why they want you here, but you should.
That's
you
not
have-
why you should want to be
And
there.
that was absolutely me for like the first 3 times, man. I was just
To a degree, it had to have been like all of us for a little bit.
oh my god, hold on, Ryan. We have the best fucking
Yeah,
freeze
it's
frame
really
of your
good.
face right now. This is the greatest moment of my life.
Yeah. Hey! This is Northernlion calling in from the Dominican Republic right now. I would like that to. Bear, you're frozen now too for me.
No, I'm
No,
just
wait.
fucking with you.
You want mine?
You're still frozen.
Yeah, I don't know if that's ever going to change.
Oh my god. I mean, we've only got an hour of the show left. Maybe we should just just roll with that.
This is beautiful.
Oh my
That's gotta
god.
be a new emote for you. Yeah, line.
Yeah.
Hey.
Oh, man. This is just the most wonderful organic moment.
It's just going to like keep it there, huh?
Yeah, that was just gonna be the thing. Okay, that's Ryan's
fine.
face for the remainder of the
Well,
show.
I'm kind of like, you know, it's just I can't focus with myself looking like that, but I'm kind of like, you know, like I would much rather. I don't know. It's not a trip, and that's the thing. People are always like,
Yeah.
When you disclose things, I find that people are usually great about it, and they're usually like, "Thanks for the disclosure. I can make my own decisions on it." But then there are people who like, you know, you go to like some Northern Californian city that is not San Francisco. People are like, "Hope you enjoyed your free vacation," and I'm like, "Man, I'm like sequestered in this like suburban hotel room, like next to a gas station, and just like eating flaming hot Cheetos for sustenance." Like, I would much rather not have to fly. Yes, the flight is free.
Oh god.
Or paid for by them, and just be in my underwear at home and then be playing this. And I'm like, but I don't know if we're quite there, but we're sort of getting there. There are some people, some developers, usually not publishers, but there are some that are like, all right, we'll just send you like a copy of the game that expires in like 4 days, and just get your content done by then, which is much better.
You can even do a contract. There's so many ways to go about this that there's no reason it has to be this way. They just prefer it to be this way.
Yeah. No, yeah, exactly. Like, it's very much by design. This is a very deliberate thing, as I mentioned. They don't want to give this up. This is a good relationship that they have now. And it took a little while, as you mentioned, for them to really... Oh, God. Okay, let's...
No, he's coming back.
I think that's coming back. I'm terrified about, like, a Skype name showing up on the screen or something.
Oh, I see.
Okay, no, we're good. Okay, we
I think
got
we're
it.
fine.
Nice. Well done. Yeah, it is a thing that they want to hold on to. And as we mentioned, it took a little while for them to sort of embrace the YouTuber and Twitch streamer as someone they want to be friendly with. But now that they've done it, yeah, I definitely see the cynicism, and I think it's warranted because there's not a lot of reason for us to, you know, think that we should be buddy-buddy because we don't really have any sort of precedent for that. But
there's a reason that I think it smacks so hard to me of being a little bit disingenuous, and it's because I'm coming from GameStop, where a lot of the time, if you ever felt like you had leverage as an employee there, they'd go, well, it's really cool that you get to work and talk about games, right?
Yeah,
so you'll just do that
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right? So, like, it would be a shame if you couldn't do that anymore. You might have to work at McDonald's or something. And, like, that's, like, a really shitty bit of leverage that people have over you. And I'm not saying that they're necessarily comparable, but I do feel a little bit of that same kind of pushback that's like, well, you have to acknowledge it's pretty cool that we think you're a cool YouTuber, right? And there's about 1 million others of you. So, like, be a shame if we didn't support you, right? That's really
had
cynical,
that,
I know.
No, yeah, and I had that fear, man. I really did. Like back in, I'm gonna just fucking blow open the doors on this whole thing, apparently. But
I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
I'm
No,
ready.
it's-
Bring it on, man.
expose me.
I'm not about to drop
Bring
a
it on.
bombshell or anything. I'm just saying, like, this is my experience with it. So when I first got contacted by Ubisoft to go out and play a game, I believe it was it was the new Far Cry. Yeah, it must have been Far Cry 4, and that blew my fucking mind. That right there was. I'm 15 years old and this is the best day of my life because
right.
you know it's Ubisoft telling me, hey, we want to fly you out to play our game on our dime, and I was just like, are you sure?
You know who you're talking to? Are you sure?
And yeah, I mean, that was a great experience. And I went out there, I met with all the Ubisoft people, I played the game. It was a lot of fun. It was a very positive and enjoyable environment, very much by design. So now
That game actually came out good too.
yeah,
Far
it
Cry
was.
4 is a good game.
It was excellent. Yeah, very good. But you know, now I've got a few of them under my belt. So I've been to a couple of Assassin's Creed events now. I've been to goddamn, they've had so much shit recently, man. They've been putting out a lot of games. But, you know, I've been to a few of their events now, and I've sort of got a footing established there. And now I am getting to the point where I'm starting to think about it in terms of, A, do I even want to go? And B, what is this relationship? So I've had to think about that, right? I've had to decide whether or not I'm really just sort of like a monkey dancing for Ubisoft when I'm doing these things. And I like to believe that the approach I've taken to it has been fairly free of bias. You know, like I've put forward the effort into covering the game, and I've given my honest opinion about it every single time I've gone, and that is not an issue with them. As far as I can tell. There have been times where I've suspected that maybe I'm not getting as many assists as I could be from them, just based on the fact that, you know, I haven't really been their show pony for a couple of the games that they've had. But, you know, at the same time, I still have a very good relationship, a working relationship with those people, and it hasn't really been based on me just saying what they want me to say. So I'll vouch for that. I think there's a good relationship to be had that isn't necessarily just a YouTuber just, you know, spewing bullshit about a game for the sake of being able to fly out and play it for free. I really don't think that's a prevalent issue, is what I want to say. I doubt it.
Well, the line that I see is that we don't sign like an ethics agreement as YouTubers, right? So anybody that feels like they want to become the shill for whatever company is free to be that.
Yeah.
And they're obviously going to select whoever is the most favorable for them. So like they're always going to be in that position where they're looking for those people that'll emerge, and then they go after them. And that's how these connections happen, and they're always going to be propagating each other.
You're right.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
I feel like I was the same way for like my first trip, and I've had the weird experience where it was like my first trip, and then the trip I started being like for all happened very soon. It was like lots of trips all back to back, and it's one of those things you're like, oh, this is excellent, this is so cool. But by like the fifth one, I was like, I don't want to fly.
Yeah.
I just send me the goddamn game. I don't want to. Oh god. Okay, wait, you're flying me on a huge trip over the ocean. I have to fly back a day after, so I have to 8 hours on a plane there, 8 hours on a plane back in 2 days. It's like I could just play. Just give me the fucking code. I can get a group of people together and we can all play this multiplayer focused game and just for a couple days and have our own opinion on it. It's really exciting right away because, like you said, it's very much like they realize they recognize me. I'm
a rock star.
I'm real. Yeah, woo, I'm a rock star. And then after that, you're like, well, unless I turn this into a vacation, like by paying an extra like grand to stay there an extra 5 days in an expensive city or whatever, then it's not really worth it for me to go.
Yeah.
I just want to stay home. That happens very, very quickly, I think, for almost everybody who does these types of things.
I do want to
So-
dispel the rumor, too, that this is just like a miniature vacation that we get to take.
Oh, it's not.
It's any other business trip you can think of, it's like, you're not
Unless
going
you
there
think
to
a
have
mini
leisure
vacation
time.
is spending 10 hours in a room with sweaty people playing a game and having a half-hour lunch break in between, because that's what it is.
I mean, even when you put it that way, it's not really the worst thing in the world, but also, it's
do that at home.
It's work. It's work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's if this is our job, if doing our job at home is not a vacation, then going to these events is not a vacation. Especially like what was evident for me when I first got started was like I would take like any trip.
Yeah.
If they were like, we want to send you to like, this doesn't exist, but like we want to send you to Cleveland to look at like, I don't know,
Baku Baku 5.
Sure, yeah, exactly. I'd be like, yeah, why not, right? And then I would get there, and it would be like a half day of traveling, and I'd be like, I don't even like this game. Like, what do I'd play it and be like, this sucks. I don't even want to be here. So now, like, I've become a lot more selective about what I like will and won't travel for, especially overseas. Is like, it is flattering. You're like, you're gonna spend that much money on me to go check out your game, but then I'm like, I don't really want to do that. Like I had way back, even like 3 years ago or 2 years ago, I had an offer to like go to the UK, and I was like, that's pretty cool. The game looked like shit, and then I like saw tweets from the event, and I was like, I see you motherfuckers. You knew that looked like shit when you accepted that offer. But
So what's the... Have you gone to... Would you say you've gone to like a proper review event, or what would you say is the closest you've been to that?
no, like I don't think I've even come close to a review event.
Me either.
The only thing that they do with YouTubers that I've seen is preview events, basically.
Yeah.
Or promotional events. I know that they'll do that with a lot of YouTubers. Like, come
Yeah.
to this office and stream this game on launch day.
Well, yeah, and
kinda
those,
thing.
I mean, those are obviously promotional, so,
But
like, they
no,
make
I'm
it very
saying,
clear
like, as far
that,
as YouTuber stuff is concerned, I've only seen like that and like preview events. I don't think I've ever heard of a YouTuber going to like a review event.
Fuck, dude, how good would it be if there was like a promo Let's Play event where they're like, hey, come to our office for like 2 days, just record the whole game in our office and then upload it.
Or you can just
That
send
would
me the
be-
fucking game.
That would be hilarious. It's like, yo, we're gonna give you exclusive access, but you gotta come out to San Francisco and play the game in our office and record it there.
You gotta let us watch you. We're gonna have the 3 lead developers on the team standing behind you the entire time.
You don't think that that's happened? That has to
I
have
don't-
happened
I don't
somewhere.
think that's happened.
Well, I'll
Not
tell you
yet.
what, like, there's a few people that will go to the Ubisoft events, and like Ubisoft is pretty cool about allowing them to capture a good amount of footage, but they're straight up recording the Let's Play videos
Yeah.
in the room with everyone else around them. They're being like obnoxiously loud, and I'm like, man, fucking come on. Like, at least do a post VO of that shit and don't ruin
Yeah.
everyone else's experience with it.
Yeah, I've been there too. We'll talk after.
Yeah.
But you're just like playing the game, and then there's people like across from you cracking jokes, and I'm like, it takes like a certain amount of bravado to do that too, which
Yeah.
I actually, I guess, begrudgingly admire. But I'm like, because you're doing this, nobody else can.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, the best part too is when multiple people are trying to do
Oh,
it, and it's
man.
very obvious
awful.
that there's like overlap happening. So you've got these jokes coming from this other YouTuber in the background of this one guy that's yelling at the screen. Like,
I would have to tap somebody on the shoulder and be like, dude, you can't.
yeah,
You can't do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think they sort of like encouraged it at the same time, but God, it doesn't work.
Kind of gross.
It doesn't work, man. It's in a nutshell. To get back to the main point of this story is that I think we're all in agreement that we're glad that review events are sort of not happening as much anymore. I think we're glad that the integrity of the review remains stalwart for now.
And faithlessness.
Yes. God. We have to tell people what's going on with that, so we can't just keep calling back to it with no base. We're just ripping on the fact that I just learned this today. Apparently, the next Star Ocean game is going to be called Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness.
really,
I thought we
Yeah.
had talked about it on this show before.
I don't
but
think
I
we
think it was just
did.
a conversation that I had with Rob or something.
I feel like I definitely would have remembered that. I like Star Ocean games. I'm not trying to be a naysayer there. Like, I loved the second story on my PS1, but it was just a shock. It's just a weird
right
name,
up there with the
man.
next Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah. Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness will be a PS3, PS4 release in 2016. If you were curious, there you go. That's news too. Ah, boy.
Best segue ever.
Yeah, no kidding. Clouds in fucking Smash Bros. Too, if we want to touch on the hard-hitting news there. What's your
promotional event?
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
What's your one character you need in Smash Brothers that hasn't been included yet?
One character that needs.
They got Linkle in there, so I'm good.
Yeah, there you go. You got your
Fuck
Linkle
yeah.
inclusion.
Linkle's in.
I don't care.
You don't care? Not
I
even a
super
little
don't care.
bit?
I really like. I don't know,
Put
man.
Solid Snake back in.
There's
Yeah.
never been a time in Smash Bros. Where I'm like, I'm playing this character because I like this character. It's always been like, I enjoy their play style. Mm-hmm. Like,
Yeah.
I play mostly as like King DDD, and yeah, sure, like I've beaten Kirby on Game Boy like 4 times 10 years ago, but I'm not like, oh man, they better put Mr. Rossetti as a playable character, or I'm gonna be mad.
Am I the only one that likes to look at the competitive meta of characters that are currently being used? Like, you don't really pay that much attention to it when you're playing with friends or stuff, but you have a general idea of the characters that people just don't use. And you pick that character because you want to make it work, and you want to show everyone that, like, every character can be played.
I'm better than the pros.
Yeah.
These are
The
better.
only reason Mr. Game & Watch doesn't get enough cycling through the pro circuit is because people don't try him out, Like, you got to give him his honest day's effort.
All you gotta do is get a 9 on the hammer, and it's like an instant KO every time.
You haven't seen this frying pan move used by an actual professional. I'll show you how it's done. No, I don't care either. It's all just I don't know why it's such a big deal. Like, people freak the fuck out over it. Cloud is in
love
Smash
Cloud.
Bros. The world is ending.
I have had to take a step back from the Nintendo community. It's gotten like it's undertailed a little bit, and I can't
Oh,
crack
that's
the
a
shell.
verb now.
that.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's so true.
The Nintendo.
You've opened up a can of worms I dare not
Not that
talk
word.
about.
I like most Nintendo games.
Yeah.
Kate and I played the new Animal Crossing board game this weekend.
How was it?
But I kind of can't get into it because you're like, hey guys, I like Smash Bros, and they're like, fucking, they don't blah blah. The Amiibo Cloud is great, but I'm like, man, you get.
I wish
Smash
they'd
Ball,
stop yelling those slurs at you like that, man.
Random
That's-
words that don't even make sense.
You get the Smash Ball, and then you press the B button, and you do a cool move, and
Get the smash ball in, you press the B button out, and
it's like a little too. It's too. The community is too in love with it right now that I can't.
It's a little overwhelming, yeah. Well,
I don't give a shit.
thank you, Mathas. It's time for everybody's favorite segment, Ask Roundtable. You can send your questions into roundtableYT@gmail.com if you had a question. This one comes from Peter. Peter wants to know, hello guys, my question is, what in your opinion would be the best movie / book / comic / game franchise that Telltale could pick up? You'll remember Telltale Games as the company behind such games as The Walking Dead and the Game of Thrones narrative, as well as Minecraft Story Mode. We're talking either serious, no right answer decisions, Walking Dead style, or, lighthearted, witty dialogue like in Tales from the Borderlands. So, more or less the question from Peter. Thank you very much, Peter, for the question. What do you want to have Telltale-ified? We'll start with Nick.
yeah, mine's super easy. I've actually said this publicly before. I think Doctor Who would be the absolute perfect match for them.
I agree with you 100%.
It's the perfect mix of witty dialogue, serious. Look, it's an honest answer. He's hanging himself over my saying Doctor
We're
Who.
picking so many fan
I'm
bases
so
to
sorry, I
upset
like
based
Doctor
on your
Who.
reaction to
Doctor Who
things.
is Nick. Don't worry, I'm with you. Doctor Who is fantastic.
Yeah. I also don't particularly care for Doctor Who, to be perfectly honest with you, but
That's fine. I don't mind if you don't care. It's fine.
yeah, no,
Hang yourself over it.
So, oh no, did we freeze frame him again, but in a much less flattering position? No,
nope,
okay,
he's
we
there.
got it. He's good. So, I'm kind of in agreement with you there, honestly. I think, despite the fact that I am not really the biggest Doctor Who fan, I think the Doctor Who Telltale game would probably do quite well. I mean, they've done so many of them already that I totally didn't even expect. I'm sort of just looking from one that would be totally out of left field, Like, I was not expecting a Tales from the Borderlands game. Were you guys? Like, that one was just
No.
totally
I still
blew me
played it
away.
'cause I don't give a shit.
And I didn't expect
Yeah,
Minecraft either.
Minecraft,
also
I
true.
maybe expected a little more. I think I expected Minecraft way more than I expected Borderlands, is the thing.
Telltale Breaking Bad.
Telltale Breaking Bad.
Hook it
yeah.
up.
I want to see
Dude, I think
suggestions.
Telltale Breaking Bad could be okay.
I
Yeah.
agree. I wasn't kidding.
I'm gonna try to pull chat suggestions here, actually, because I may not even have that good of an answer for you.
What's your answer?
The
Telltale Bob Ross.
Telltale Bob Ross, sure. I like the Telltale Hunger Games one, actually. Telltale
I
Hunger
could see
Games is
that
pretty
as
good.
well. That could be cool.
That new movie's coming out on fucking Friday, man. Apparently, I just do not consume media anymore because I had no idea that was even a thing.
I don't know if it's that. I mean, I know it's big, but I feel like it's kind of been superseded by other phenomena now.
It tried to Tomb Raider its way into the main releases of the year.
It was just like it's gone on too long. It's like expecting me to care about something that is not a member of my family for like 4 years is just it's too much.
That's a good rule of thumb.
That's an undergraduate degree. You've asked me to care about the Hunger Games franchise long enough to get a bachelor's in something. Like
You got a series you want Telltale-ified, right?
the Hunger Games.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I was thinking Breaking
Finding
Bad
Lies.
would be cool.
Yeah.
But I would also like to see Telltale do something sci-fi, which is not me. I guess Borderlands is sci-fi, but in an established universe. I'm not necessarily saying Star Wars or Star
Firefly.
Trek. That could be cool. Yeah. So something along those lines, or maybe like a Telltale Fargo, something like that.
Oh man, Telltale
Actually, that's
Django.
solid. I would love that.
You've actually
Both of
actually
those,
nailed
actually.
you actually nailed exactly what I want. I remember when they announced they were working on Game of Thrones. All they said is they've got their dream project. I was like, oh my god, what could it be? And the one I was hoping for was Star Wars. I would love to see them do a Star Wars thing because the choices you have, you could like have like force power options. What do you want to do? Like force persuade, choke
come
him,
on.
just talk to him. Come on, it'd
Yeah.
be awesome. I would
You know
love
it's
to
going
see
to
a
end
Star
the
Wars
same
story.
way it did in every other Star Wars game. It's a freaking black-white morality system.
I don't care about morality. Just give me my options
Okay.
to force.
Yo,
choke a
I
bitch.
know the Death Star didn't work last time, but hear me out. What if
But
we
that's the-
built another Death Star?
Do you realize that is the Force Awakens?
That's what I mean. They show that like Star Station in the background.
Star Killer base
Yeah.
in the background. Yeah.
Dude,
You're
Force
like,
Awakens
well-
1 is still really good, I think. Force Awakens 2 is garbage. Or Force Unleashed, I mean.
Yeah,
There you
it's-
go. Force Unleashed 2 was awful.
It's
It
one
was
of the
so
worst
bad.
games I've ever played.
It was
The
at least
first
it was
one
only
solid.
3 hours. It
Yeah.
was done.
Don't prolong the suffering. Ugh.
Suffering.
Well, thank you very much, Peter, for the question. Again, you can send your questions into roundtableYT@gmail.com if you've got a question for Ask Roundtable. I did want to mention, too, he recommended I check out, he said, if you want an interesting time travel game, because I was talking about wanting to make my own time travel game in that Ask Roundtable segment last week. He recommended I check out Shadow of Destiny, a Japanese
Yeah.
PS2 adventure game. I remember I did play that game. I remember it very vividly now. I played Shadow of Destiny on the PS2. It came out in like 2003. I'm looking at the plot for it now. I'm trying to remember what happened. And I don't want to... Okay, I'm going to spoil the entire plot for Shadow of Destiny on the
Aw,
PlayStation 2.
damn.
I want to give you guys a warning for that right now. I'm sorry. It's set in a fictional German town named Lebensbaum, which means life's tree. It was originally called Shadow of Memories in Japan. It was changed to Shadow of Destiny for some reason in North America because just Destiny is more approachable than Memories, maybe. But the 22-year-old protagonist dies in the beginning of the game from being stabbed after leaving a diner.
It's like Ghost.
Yeah.
No, just instantly. It's just like, boom, you're dead.
And then you're right into the clay pot scene.
But there's
Yeah.
like 8 endings for it, which I was amazed by. Like that was pretty cool back in the day. Like I remember thinking, man, there's like all kinds of shit can happen in this. This is wild. This is the most ambitious title of all time. 10 out of 10. Yeah.
10.
That was it.
It's a really high score.
Yeah, it was really good. Now, time for everybody's favorite segment after their favorite segment. It's
Wait
Nick's
a
Weird
minute.
Games. What's up?
Wait a
What's up?
minute.
What's up?
What?
You talking about Shadow of Destiny or Shadow of Memories?
No, that's what I said. They called it Shadow of Memories in Japan, but Shadow of Destiny in North America. That's where the confusion lay.
Good. I was just testing you.
Okay, Good. A PSP version was released in 2009, if you want to know that.
They can play my PSP.
That's right. Best are
Pretty small penis.
Nice.
It's time for Nick's Weird Games. Every week, Nick picks a weird game from his catalog of very weird games. We try to guess it. We allow Twitch chat to try to guess as well. If you think you know the game, feel free to shout it out in chat, and we'll try to grab your name from there and shout you out. And this week's Nick's Weird Game theme song, routinely performed by Ryan Northernlion Laterno. What are we looking for? I don't know. I got nothing, man. What do you want? What do you want? You artist pick. Anything. Just dive in, you know?
Just host the show next week, and then...
Maybe you'll get up on time.
Right? Yeah.
That's valid. I don't know.
What's popular with the kids these days? What's on fleek, man? I'm learning
what is
on
it, like,
fleek is a thing
insane.
people say. They say it.
What is it? 14 Karat by Selena Gomez?
I don't know this one.
How about a little bit of let's go like with the fucking mamas and the papas. Can you pull that off? That's just like the, like da 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 da.
Yeah, I know California Dreamin'. Man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
You look. I feel like you want this one, but I don't know.
Yeah,
If you got it.
there's a line I've found that I could take.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Nick, you got to go get the game, man. Here we go.
All right, I was waiting.
Okay, that would be like, all the games are bad, and the publisher died, Nick's got a weird game we will try. It came out in the early 2000s or the late 90s. Okay, that's basically.
That was good. No, I like that a lot, man. You got to know the mamas and the papas to get to appreciate that one. But
Yeah,
that one was nice. All right.
Hey guys,
What do you
wanna play
got
some
for us,
Nick's Weird
Nick?
Games?
Yes, I do.
All right, I've got a PS2 game for you today.
Okay.
Back to that again. It's a pretty easy one. I think your chances of this are fairly high that you'll get it. You will be dissuaded when I say who the developer is, though, because I think you won't know a clue who they are.
All right.
Developed by Swingin' Ape Studios.
No idea who they are.
No idea.
Swinging a
Swingin' Ape Studios.
Donkey Kong Island or Tropical Island on the Nintendo DS.
Published by Vivendi Universal and Sierra Entertainment. Came out on the
Okay.
GameCube, PS2, Xbox, and apparently the Xbox 360, although I'm not exactly sure how.
What year was this?
This came out in North America in 2003.
Okay.
It is a third-person action shooter, and it features a robot. Pause. Anybody?
Keep going.
Okay. Follows a robot that I can't say his name.
Good
Oh,
catch.
good.
Good
Yeah.
catch. That might be. Oh, is it Choppy?
No, it's not Choppy. I don't know
What-
what that
Jimmy
is.
Robo?
Chappie?
No, Chappy. Yeah, Chappy. That's the one.
Choppy.
He joins forces with some droids in a fight against General Corrosive and the Millbots.
Is this Metal Arms a glitch in the system?
Ding! We have a winner,
Ooh,
boys.
Nice.
Ryan's
Well
got
done. Metal
That's
Arms.
an underrated classic. You know, Josh loves that game.
Wow.
Quite a few
Arms.
people
I've
do,
heard of Metal
actually.
Arms.
And it came out around when Ratchet and Clank did, and actually got quite a bit of positive press, only it just sort of went away for some reason, and there was, I don't think, ever a follow-up on it for, again, whatever reason. But we have a winner.
One more time, give me the box art on there.
One more time, sure.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, the robot
yeah.
is
I like that.
glitch.
He looks a little bit like Chappy, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Just a little spit.
He does, actually.
That was close.
Here's our first one here.
Yeah, we got that in chat. Well done, man.
This
That's
one way up, actually.
that's one of those rare occasions, I think, where we might have even gotten it before chat did, honestly. So
Disco Werfel, I think, might be the first person. Wait, no, there's another one up above that. Resner
Resner. Well done,
is
Resner.
the first one I see. Well done.
All right.
It was my first Nick's Weird game ever, I think.
Yeah, you gotta tell me. You gotta tell me how you got that one. What's your history with this game?
I had a lot of subscriptions to gaming magazines in like 2003 to 2004.
Okay. That's
Also,
fair.
Josh really liked Metal Arms, so he was talking about Metal Arms from time to time. We knew each other back then. Apparently, it came out on Xbox 360 through their backwards compatible thing that launched in
That makes
2008.
Oh yeah. Okay. There we go.
That makes sense because I was like, "What?
News to me.
There's no way they like remastered Metal Arms.
Yeah, no, I didn't think they did either. So when I saw that, I was a little confused. I almost didn't say it at all because it might have screwed up the whole thing.
Yeah.
What's the robot's name that you said you couldn't say?
Glitch.
Glitch. Okay.
Because
Gotcha.
Glitch in the System is the title of the game. So.
Okay. Right. Oh man. Well, that is Nick's Weird Games. We still have, by the way, the option if you'd like to do so of the PO box Nick's got set up. So if you've got a weird game that you want Nick to showcase on this segment, feel free to send that over. Also, of course, ask Roundtable. You got roundtableYT@gmail.com. And that is our show for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We're going to go probably play more Fallout 4 I'd wager if we're half of us.
Yeah, I got one more day of Fallout week today, so I got to stream that.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. This is ideally, again, the start time we're looking for the show around, let's go between 11 and 11:30 Pacific Standard Time. Here on the Roundtable Twitch account. This twitch.tv/Roundtable Podcast. Still available, of course, on YouTube and SoundCloud as well. If you missed the live show, you can always catch the entire VOD either in video form or in audio form on SoundCloud or iTunes as well. We're still on iTunes, still uploading every single show over there on iTunes. Feel free to rate the show 5 stars if you enjoyed. We want to thank our patron supporters for this week's show. You can go over to patreon.com/roundtable as well. Still running the Patreon page in addition to the Twitch subscription model we've got going on for the channel now, which is closing in on actually that sub goal, which I guess I should be promoting if we want to get the rest of those emotes unlocked. We got to get up to 25. So, obviously no pressure at all whatsoever to do that. But if we want more emotes, there's that. Thank you very much for our Patreon supporters for this week's show. That is including, but not limited to, Max Pillin, Positron, Christopher Flagg, Alexander Spillman, Jonathan Graham, Julian Abelsgard, Kevin Berklin, Matt, David Bradley, Air Force Balls, General Krug, Casey, Zur, Simph, Kevin Walker, Ignacio 0891, Bristle Brip, Justin, Vandervet, Logan Ray, Smurfet, T-Page Tenor, Matthew Monahan, Adam Savage's Blowhole, Johannes Goldhahn, Mediocrities, Nullref, and Myth Scarab. Thank you guys very much for continuing to support the show, and thank you all very much for watching today's episode of Roundtable Live. You can catch the VOD again later on today over on youtube.com/BaerTaffy. But that is going to do it. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Later.